is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are at the beach here doing a zero equipment booty workout that you can do anytime, anywhere, at home, at the beach, no matter what. So let's get into it.
Alright guys, so this workout is going to be done in a superset type fashion. Each superset has 3 exercises and they're all done for 3 rounds. First superset consists of normal bodyweight squats, followed by squat pulses, and after that you finish it off by high knees, repeat and do 2 more times. Let's go. Alright guys, so some pointers for the squat here. You want to squat to at least 90 degrees, that way everything is engaging really nicely. You also want to drive the knees outward on the way down. You don't want the knees to cave in on each other. As well as you keeping your core nice and tight, you want to have a nice tall back throughout the whole squat. Now if bodyweight squats are too easy, you can always progress them to jump squats. These add an explosive component that makes the quads work a little bit harder and gets that explosive power built up really nicely. Alright guys, for the squat pulses, we're going to drop down to that 90-degree position in our normal bodyweight squat, and we're going to pulse up and down for 20 seconds. Now, what this pulse is, we don't want you bouncing up and down because that relies on the muscle's elasticity and it makes the exercise a lot easier. We want slow and controlled pulses up and down throughout the whole time period. Alright guys, so high knees, these are our cardio for this superset. So what I want you to think about here is not doing it sloppy. I want you to think about keeping your core nice and tight, using your abs to squeeze your thighs to your chest and bring your knees up to your hands. Give your knees a gentle tap on your hands and then shoot your leg back down to the ground. Alright guys, nice job on that first superset. Your next superset right here consists of one-legged Romanian deadlifts, tempo squats, and finishing it all off with some fire hydrants to get that burn going. Let's get it. Okay guys, so one-legged Romanian deadlifts are a very technical exercise. So if you have something to hold on to help you stabilize, you can absolutely use that for sure. So the main pointers here with Romanian deadlifts are keeping the body in a straight line as much as you can. You don't want your lower back to arch when you go down, and you also don't want your upper back to cave in and have your chest cave in on itself. What I want you to think about, keeping your shoulder blades pulled together, keep your core nice and tight, and squeezing your booty as you go down when you keep that leg straight. And on the way back up, I want you to think the same thing. Everything nice and tight, everything moves as one unit. You're hinging at the hips. Your hips are your rotation point. So tempo squats starts to introduce us to the time under tension principle. So we're not doing a lot, but we're making our muscles do a lot of work because we're moving slowly. So what we're doing with tempo squats is lowering down to that 90-degree position for 5 seconds, holding that 90-degree position for 5 seconds, and then going back up for 5 seconds to a standing position. This is where you'll realize after a few reps, you've only done like 3 or 4, but you feel like you've done 20 or 30. The burn sets in very quickly because of how much the muscles have to work to stabilize and control you throughout the whole movement. So when you do fire hydrants, the muscle that you're targeting is the glute medius. This is also the muscle that, when it's nice and developed, gives your hips that nice round look to them. So a couple of tips for fire hydrants. you're on all fours, keep the core nice and engaged. It's tempting to let the lower back arch and be lax in your core. Don't do that. Keep the core nice and tight and focus on the only movement coming from you lifting your leg out to the side and bringing it back down nice and controlled. Alright guys, you're almost done with the workout. For the last superset, we have side plank hip abduction, bird dogs with a crunch, and then the last exercise, glute bridges with a pulse at the end. We're doing that for about 20 seconds. Let's get it. So I know this looks like a core exercise, but I want you to think of, instead of using your core to get your hips up into that straight line position, think of driving through your bottom knee to drive your hips up and get that straight line position with your body. It's going to be a little bit different. It should feel a little bit different. You should feel the burn more in the side of your hip than you should in your obliques and your core. Alright guys, so with bird dogs, we're getting into a little bit more of rotational stability of the core. This is because we're lifting opposite limbs at the same time and challenging the core's rotational stability. So a couple pointers for this exercise. When you lift the arm, make sure you're lifting the arm nice and straight above your head, not out to the side or anything like that. And for the leg, make sure when you get the leg fully straight, squeeze the butt at the top of that movement, give it a hold for just a small second, and then come back down. And make sure on the way up, you're not arching your back to get the leg up there and compromising your core. You want to keep the core nice and tight through the whole exercise. Alright guys, so the last exercise we have in this superset are glute bridges that end with pulses. So just a couple tips for glute bridges that we have. So you want to make sure your lower back is touching the ground before you do any sort of other movement. Make sure your core is nice and engaged. Next, you want to make sure you're pushing out through your heels and not your toes. The heels will make sure that your glutes are engaged just a little bit more. And lastly, when you get to the top of the movement, you want to squeeze your butt for just a split second and then come back down nice and controlled.